The dictionary defines symmetry as a form of balance achieved by the use of identical balanced compositional units on either side of a vertical axis within the picture plane. But to be frank, it can roughly be defined in art as art that is the same on both sides if we divided it in half. Asymmetry occurs when you have different visual images on either side of a design, and yet the image still seems balanced. To be considered asymmetrical, a design needs to have unequal visual weight on either side, but those unequal visuals need to balance each other. Now, if we want to get a little weird, there's also asymmetrical balance, which is the same on both sides roughly with slight variations. And there's also radial balance, which is symmetrical balance, but in a circle. Now that we understand the definitions of symmetry and asymmetry, can you actually identify it in the following images? Take a look. This first image, is it symmetrical or asymmetrical? Is this image 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 symmetrical or asymmetrical? So I want to talk about statues and their relationship to symmetry and asymmetry. Now, before Donatello came along in the 15th century, statues were very symmetrical, they were very flat, and didn't have very good human proportions. You can see examples of this in a lot of Egyptian statues, Mayan statues. They're very symmetrical. Donatello changed all that and gave his statues an asymmetrical pose and made the proportions more human. You can see this with one of his best works, which is David. Now, David has very boyish features, and Donatello's interpretation of David greatly influenced Michelangelo almost 200 years later. When Michelangelo got access to a block of marble at the age of 27 and started sculpting David, this sculpture of David, while also asymmetrical and with proper human proportions, did something revolutionary. It showed weight in the figure. You can tell when you look at the statue, all of the weight is on the one leg. These statues are wonderful examples of asymmetry. And don't let the pictures fool you. The statues are huge. I've seen them myself in person, and there's nothing like them in the world. Now, on to our assignment. How do we use it in our art? So, when we're thinking about symmetry and asymmetry, we need to think about it before we start putting the art on the page. But for our activity, what we're going to do is I want you to take a piece of paper and a pencil, of course, and find a portion of your home that you feel confident in drawing. You want to make sure that there are a couple objects in it, and it could be a wall, or it could be a room, maybe you sit at a door entranceway, or in the middle of a room. It can even be in your backyard. Fold the paper in half, either hot dog or hamburger style, and create the scene in your home as accurately as possible. Make sure where you're visually splitting your wall, you're splitting on the paper. Then what I'd like you to do is write in the bottom left or right corner of your paper whether or not your image and your section of wall was symmetrical or asymmetrical. Fill the entire page and utilize the entire space that you see to make that happen. Turn this in to me by Friday and you should be good. So, what did you think of my example? Was my example symmetrical or asymmetrical?